Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and kids of all ages. On behalf of the presenters and organizers of Speaker's Corner, I would like to welcome you to the very first session of the 2015 season. My name is Gabor Zinner. I am the founder of Speaker's Corner, and lately I've started calling myself, tongue-in-cheek of course, as the self-proclaimed Grand Mufti of Tomkins Park. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, muftis are officials in the Middle East countries who are learned in the law and in religion, and they give advice to judges and clients. And the supreme mufti in each jurisdiction is called the Grand Mufti. And apparently there are 16 of them that occupy that office today, but alas, my Grand Muftiness is confined to this tiny corner of this stamp-sized park. So that's who I am. For those of you who have not previously been here, Speaker's Corner is a fresh air experience, obviously, designed to emulate the time-honored tradition that was started in Hyde Park in London, England. And it's we offer Calgarians an opportunity to address topical issues, to speak their minds. And we thought, prior to the most recent results of the polls, that having a Speaker's Corner is especially important when our legislature was so lopsided in terms of representation and there was no effective opposition. So we thought it would be especially important and timely to have a Speaker's Corner going. And of course there are many important issues of the day that need to be addressed. By the way, there are lots of seats up front if people want to approach. The sheets are stuck together. Sorry about
Peter's
that.
driving. Was there a big lineup?
So typically we invite speakers with some knowledge and passion about a topic to debate. And then thereafter, we have a format whereby we have someone arguing in favor of a resolution, someone opposed. There's an opportunity for rebuttal, and thereafter it's open mic. So you can all come up and put questions, make comments. We have unfettered freedom of speech. We believe that we welcome unpopular views in the belief that the heresy of today is the orthodoxy of tomorrow and vice versa. The only caveat is that if you come up and speak, and you can speak as vigorously as you want, but attack the speaker's position and not the speaker himself, and be careful not to engage in anything that's defamatory that may offend against the hate laws of Canada. So without any further ado, the resolution for debate today will be it resolved that Bill 10 relating to gay-straight alliances be revoked. Speaking in favor of the resolution will be John Carpay, who will be introduced momentarily by Dr. Aaliyah Bailey. And speaking against will be Pam Krause, who will also be introduced. So without any further ado, Dr. Bailey, please come and introduce the first speaker.
Thank you, Gabor. Thank you, everyone, for coming out today. I appreciate you being here, and I hope you appreciate me being here. It's been a rough month. So, as Gabor said, speaking first, speaking again for the bill, which is against the Gay-Straight Alliance, will be John Carpay, who is the president of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom. As such, he has been a voice in Canada's courtrooms at all levels since 2001, during which time he has intervened in numerous cases which touch on issues of race, ancestry, descent, and ethnicity. Yay, I didn't screw it up. Ethnicity, freedom of expression, democratic accountability. John also serves on the board of advisors for iJustice, an initiative of the Center for Civil Society, India. Originally from the Netherlands, John grew up in Williams Lake, BC. He earned his BA in political science at Laval University in Quebec City. We won't hold that against you. You should have gone. You know where you should have gone, right? McGill. And his LLB from the University of Calgary. He is fluent in English, French, and Dutch. John served the Canadian Taxpayers Federation as Alberta's director from 2001 till 2005, advocating for lower taxes, less waste, and accountable government. During this time, Alberta Venture magazine named him as one of Alberta's 50 most influential people. The Edmonton Sun described him, as the unofficial leader of the opposition, and John's many columns have been published in newspapers across Canada. John?
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Is this working okay? My thanks to Mr. Zinner and Dr. Elias for putting this on. My thanks to my I don't know if it's better, we'll see. My thanks also to my debating partner, Pam Krause, for being interested in doing this. And my thanks to all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules on a not so warm but still sunny day in the spring. And I'm going to speak in favor of the resolution that Bill 10 be revoked. I have 6 reasons, and I'll review them briefly and go into them in depth. Bill 10 should be revoked because it puts students in charge of school clubs and it excludes parents from deciding on the school's culture and character and learning environment. Bill 10 should be revoked because it opens the door for all kinds of different special interest groups to come into the schools and establish their clubs there, regardless of the wishes of parents. Bill 10 should be revoked because it doesn't address the sources or the causes of bullying. Bill 10 should be revoked because it takes away the local authority, local discretion of schools to create their own school culture of their choice as the best ways to combat bullying. Bill 10 should be revoked because it undermines the diversity and choice in education. And last but not least, Bill 10 should be revoked because it violates the legal rights of parents to choose the kind of education that they think is best for their children. Now, on the first reason, Bill 10 puts students in charge of schools. Historically, and right on through to the present day, there are certain things that we reserve for adults. Children cannot vote, they cannot get married, they cannot purchase or consume alcohol, they cannot purchase tobacco, they can't join the army, and there's a long list of other things that minors are precluded from doing. There are decisions that children are not allowed to make. And until Bill 10 came along, we've had parents delegating their authority to principals and teachers, and we've had adults in charge of schools. That's not to say that children should not be consulted. I think children should be consulted, their voice should be heard. But when it's time to make a decision on something like what kind of a school are we going to have, what's the curriculum that's going to be taught, what kinds of clubs are going to be allowed or not allowed in our school, when it comes to those decisions, we leave them for adults. Well, this has just gone out the window with Bill 10 because Bill 10 gives children, students, of all ages, it's not just high school students, it's any student in a school operated by a school board. Children have the legal right to have not only a gay-straight alliance, but as I'll get to it later, all kinds of other clubs. And this is regardless of what parents might think or want, because the legislation says in Bill 10 that if a student requests a club, the principal, or an activity, the principal shall establish that club in the school, and the principal shall facilitate the activity. And so parents are completely excluded from this. All it takes is one student, and then it doesn't matter what the school's mission is, or its vision, its culture, its character, none of that matters. there will be a Gay Straight Alliance or some other club at the request of one student. So this is a very big shift, and I think it's unwise to put students in charge of schools in this fashion. Now, when it comes to the school's character and culture and learning environment, there are all kinds of reasons why parents might not want a particular kind of club set up at their school. Parents might not want a firearms appreciation club at the school where their children attend because they hate guns. And even if there's going to be no use of firearms at the club, and it's all going to be done very safely off-site, not at the school, but at a firing range, and everybody wearing their goggles and helmets and everything's safe, there are some parents who would say, look, I just don't want a firearms appreciation club at the school where my kids attend because in our family we hate guns. We think guns should be reserved just for the police and soldiers, nobody else. This is not the kind of club we want. That's not the kind of culture we want in our schools. A lot of parents would object to having a Bible club or a prayer club at their school that the children attend, or an Islamic club, which is going to be promoting its teachings on women or on homosexuality. A lot of parents would not want a political party club at their school. And they would say, you know, save that for extracurricular, but not during school, not as part of the school's culture. A lot of parents would not want a pro-life club at the school where their children attend. And a Jewish school might not want a Muslim club at the Jewish school. A Muslim school might not want a Hindu club, so on and so forth. Now, for each of these clubs, you could always say, well, nobody's required to join. And, you know, shouldn't that solve everything? And my answer is no. What kinds of clubs are allowed or not allowed at a school determine that school's culture and that school's character. And parents validly and legitimately have a right to determine what is the culture and character and the learning environment of the school that their children attend. So to say that nobody's required to join the club is not an answer to compelling concerns. But now we get to the crucial part of Bill 10. For every club imaginable, including Gay Straight Alliance, including some of the examples that I've mentioned, for every club, you could have a big long debate about whether that club is a good thing or a bad thing. And the debate can go back and forth and it can go on, but at the end of the day, the big question is, who's going to decide what clubs are allowed or not allowed in a school? And what Bill 10 does is it empowers students, and indirectly it empowers special interest groups of all kinds to make that decision on what club will be allowed in a school or not. It disempowers parents. Parents do not have the right to say no to a club in their children's school that they fundamentally disagree with. Now, it's been said, I've heard Gordon Dirks argue that school's culture, school's character, school's learning environment doesn't really matter because the religious schools, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, and others, religious schools still have a right to teach their curriculum, and they can teach their religion, they can teach their religious views on matters of sexuality, and so everything's just fine. This is not what the Supreme Court of Canada said recently in the Loyola decision, where the court refers to the character of a school as being important, and that governments and government authorities must respect the religious character of a religious school. There are other Supreme Court decisions as well that hold that the climate, the character, the culture, the learning environment of a school is fundamentally important. It deserves constitutional protection, even to the point where schools have a legal right to have their teachers adhere to a code of conduct that they have to practice outside of the classroom, outside of school hours. Even there, in the case of Caldwell and Stewart, in another case, Ross in New Brunswick, the Supreme Court of Canada has said that a teacher's conduct outside the classroom is relevant for the climate and culture of a school. Four minutes left, okay. All right. The second big reason why Bill 10 should be revoked is that it gives all kinds of groups, any group that can dress itself up as saying that it is intended to promote a welcoming, caring, respectful, and safe learning environment. Grief. Any club that can dress itself up as promoting a welcoming, caring, safe, and respectful learning environment has a legal right to get into the school. It's not limited to gay-straight alliances. I won't go through the long list of other examples I've already mentioned of different kinds of clubs that can get into the schools where even one student goes and asks the principal for that. Section 35.1 sub 2 of the Act specifically says that gay-straight alliances are merely one example of a club that can get into the schools through this legislation. So Bill 10 is not about whether GSAs are good or bad. I'm sure that my debating partner, Ms. Krause, is going to have lots of good things to say about GSAs. And GSAs were allowed in schools prior to Bill 10. If Bill 10 is revoked, GSAs are still allowed in schools. The only thing that Bill 10 does is it removes the rights of parents to say no to a GSA or to another kind of club. And not everybody agrees with, there's different reasons for disagreeing or agreeing with different kinds of clubs. Not everybody agrees with GSAs. A lot of people in Alberta do, they think they're a good thing. There's a lot of people who think that GSAs are not a good thing. And the question we come back to is it students, perhaps in some cases, motivated or coached or instigated by various kinds of activists? Is it teachers? Is it special interest groups that get to decide? Or is it parents who get to determine the culture and character and learning environment of the school that their children are in? The GSA, the Bill 10 does not address the causes of bullying. The biggest pretexts or excuses for bullying are not sexual orientation, but obesity, body image, physical appearance, grades, the marks, maybe your marks are too high or too low, culture, language, religion. These are the biggest pretexts. I won't even say that they're causes of bullying because I think they're all excuses, they're not causes. I know of one case where a child was horribly bullied at school for years and years, called names, mocked, ridiculed, ostracized, rejected, excluded, teased, threatened, beat up, and yet he wasn't obese, was not a member of a visible minority, didn't speak English with an accent, not particularly attractive or unattractive, and yet he still got bullied. Why was that? Could be any number of reasons. Not having the right social skills, maybe he was abused at home. But bullying, to try to focus on the pretext of, whether you wear glasses or whether you're obese or whether this, whether that, focusing on these pretexts doesn't address the root cause of bullying. Bullying it's about unkindness, it's about disrespect, it's about not recognizing that everybody is made in the image of God and is therefore deserving of respect. And how that's going to be go away, if ever, and I hope it will, it's going to involve changing hearts and minds and changing families and changing parents. And but to force one kind of club on every school in Alberta, regardless of what parents want, is not going to address the root causes of bullying. Last three reasons I'll go through quite quickly because I know I'm out of time, getting close to being out of time. Bill 10 should be revoked because it removes the local discretion from schools. I've already touched on this. Instead of principals and teachers and parents being able to decide their own unique particular solution for their own local school, we've got a law imposed from Edmonton. So it's top down, it's not decentralization, it's not respectful of the local environment of each school. Bill 10 should be revoked because it makes every school in Alberta more similar, therefore it takes away from parental choice to choose a school that is authentically different. Last but not least, Bill 10 violates the legal rights of parents. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights says that parents have a prior right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to their children. The context of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was not long after World War II, when there were totalitarian governments that were using the school system to indoctrinate children into the government's ideology. And this is why in the Universal Declaration there's an express provision there that says that parents have a prior right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to their children. Bill 10 is in direct opposition to that. It strips parents of the right to determine the culture, character, and learning environment of the school that their children attend. It's not just the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but also the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which was recently recognized in the Supreme Court of Canada decision in Loyola. And this expressly states that governments must undertake to have respect for the liberty of parents to ensure the religious and moral education of their children in conformity with their own convictions. And Bill 10 is contrary to that. Thank you very much, and look forward to hearing what Ms. Krause has to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Okay, now we have our second speaker, Pam Krause. She's not John. So Pam is the president and CEO of the Calgary Sexual Health Centre, also known as CSHC. She has been with the agency since 2001, taking the leadership role in 2004. She graduated from the University of Calgary with a BA in political science as well, and Pam began her career in municipal and provincial politics. An advocate and activist on issues relating to equality and social justice, Pam has worked and volunteered in the Calgary nonprofit community for the past 20 years. Under Pam's leadership, the Calgary Sexual Health Centre has grown and today is the only nonprofit organization in our community that provides comprehensive sexual health education programs and services for people across the lifespan. Pam's leadership has been recognized by being named as Global Television Woman of Vision and is a recipient of the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal for her years of community service. Pam brings a wealth of experience and insight to her leadership role at the CSHC. She is one of Calgary's strongest voices on issues relating to sexual and reproductive health. Pam?
That's great, thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you so much to the organizers and also for each of you for being here. It's always great to see some democracy in action in our community. As one could probably expect, I have a few thoughts around what John has said. So essentially for me, when the Bill 10 debate came about, the first thing that I thought of was the quote, "The true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members." At the Calgary Sexual Health Centre, we've been educating youth for 43 years, and we know very, very well youth are marginalized in our community. LGBTQ youth are among the highest, youth with the highest rates of suicide, and it has a big connection to school belonging and their sense of their ability to succeed in society. So for us, this doesn't come from, sort of a sense of being nice to people or focusing on a special interest. This is saving the lives of youth in our society. GSAs do save lives. GSAs increase school safety and they increase academic success. GSAs help marginalized groups feel included. And for most youth, school attachment is the feeling of being an engaged part of the school community and is often an essential factor of their school success. For LGBT youth, often this is the opposite. They have no sense of belonging, they have no sense of safety, and they have no sense of being who they are. So it is essential in our minds that there are whatever is necessary in place. It's also hugely important to recognize that this is not at the expense of any other youth, of anyone else's rights, and certainly, as I will talk about later, really does not impact parental rights. The truth of the matter is our school system is set up to create a safe and inclusive environment for every student to succeed. I am slightly baffled by having a unique school culture. I don't actually completely understand what that means. I think as parents we have an expectation that when our kids walk through the door of that school that they are going to be safe and that everything is being set up for them to succeed. 25% of youth in Alberta do not graduate from high school in the province of Alberta. That isn't only because of curriculum problems. That isn't only because we perhaps don't have teachers that we think are doing enough. What that means is that it doesn't work for everybody. And what gay-straight alliances do is they create a sense of belonging. And you know what? In some cases, that's it, full stop. Nobody's trying to tell anyone how to be. Nobody's trying to change who anyone else is. At one of the GSAs in Calgary right now, they're working with Muslim students to create a better, safe environment for them. It actually creates an environment where everyone in the school feels safer, and I am absolutely at a loss to figure out why anyone would oppose that. We recognize that people have strong values and beliefs, and we recognize that people, as parents, want to ensure that their children grow up with those values and beliefs. Why would anyone want to infringe upon that? When we walk into a school system, we believe that those values and beliefs are going to be upheld, perhaps reinforced, or even sometimes they might be challenged. But that doesn't have anything to do with whether a person is capable of having safety in the environment in which they are. So I feel that it's really important to, first of all, really clearly state that I have high expectations of what is provided to schools in terms of safety. The fact is, again, LGBTQ youth are among the highest percentage of youth who do not feel safe. For transgender students, up to 74% of those students have been harassed. This isn't bullying based on some kind of random characteristic. This is a bullying, this is harassment, this is hatred based on who this person is. It isn't a choice. It isn't something that other people try to talk somebody into being. This is a fundamental part of who a human being is, and I believe it should be respected in our society. And we should do what we can to, in fact, change those statistics. The thing is, the other thing we know is what we see over and over again in a province like Alberta is the more we have to pay for things like suicide intervention, for other mental health problems, for addictions, for all kinds of social issues that are caused by not dealing in a prevention way, it gets us into an economic mess. GSAs, as one part of a way to create a safe environment, actually can save money. So once again, I don't quite understand why we wouldn't support something that would actually help the mental health of our youth. When we get to the argument around all kinds of groups, all kinds of clubs, well, I suppose there is some truth that if students work hard enough to get a club, that can happen. But I also believe that parents should play a role and should play an active role of what's happening within the school community. And thus when these groups are coming about like a gun club, probably parents are going to play a role in that. The gay-straight alliances, as John said, have existed for a long time. They started in Massachusetts in the late 1980s, and in fact in Alberta the first one was at Lindsay Thurber Comprehensive High School in Red Deer in 2000. That GSA was formed as part of the school's highly successful STOP program, Students and Teachers Opposing Prejudice. So it actually began as a broader initiative around the oppression of youth. Students are student-led and teacher-supported. There has to be a sponsoring teacher in order for GSAs to happen. So the first step is not for a student to say, hey everyone, I want a GSA. The first step is for youth to find someone who's supporting them so they can actually set up the structure to run their club, which sometimes is in the cafeteria of the school on Wednesdays with 5 youth. They're voluntary, of course, and they're designed to provide a safe space for the students to meet, socialize, and support one another. And the straight part is actually quite significant, because often the people who attend Gay Straight Alliances might have a family member who is LGBTQ, or might just want to actually be a supportive friend. And in fact, in California, they did some research, 28% of the people who are part of GSAs are identify as heterosexual. It's critical that GSAs exist as a separate club or group. They're created to indicate a safe environment for queer youth. You can only imagine if you're the only person, or you feel you're the only person in your school who is LGBTQ, and you feel very unsafe, and you walk into that school and there's a Gay Straight Alliance, you're going to feel a whole lot safer, a whole lot faster. If you have to seek it out and determine if it's a diversity club that fits with your values or fits with what you're looking for, it just makes it a lot harder for a youth who's already marginalized. The other part that's really important to recognize is they did some research out of UBC. They found that not only did GSAs create a safer school environment for LGBTQ youth, but in fact it was also true for heterosexual youth. And over the course of years, when Gay Straight Alliances existed, where there were policies in place for more than 3 years, heterosexual boys had a 20% lower odds of suicidal thoughts than heterosexual boys in schools without those policies. This has recently done research. So it creates a safer environment for everyone. We have seen that happen at the Calgary Sexual Health Centre as well. Parents, again, are absolutely key in all of this, and I don't think that we have to in any way think that parents are left out of this equation. I have to say in my work, I actually wish parents were way more involved, and particularly the parents of high school students. We've been doing parent education workshops for 43 years, and every single year over those 43 years, it's always been really hard to get parents engaged. Why it matters to us so much is if you feel comfortable talking to your kids about sexuality, those values conversations, those conversations about the morals and beliefs of your family are that much easier to have and that much easier to instill in your youth. So for us, it's just really important that parents are playing a vital role. The problem is, that's not always the situation. So school is looked at by youth as a safe place that they can go when they don't have support at home. The other thing is that I think it's important is that parental rights are of course very important, but at the same time we have to really recognize that if parents don't want a GSA, there might be a lot of parents who do want a GSA, so it's also important to balance the rights of parents who really feel strongly that GSAs do exist. And also there can be a situation where the government has a duty to protect minors, which does not necessarily agree with the rights of particular parents. There is a mature minor doctrine, and that says that minors are included and given decision-making options for important life decisions. Maybe that could include the choice of whether or not to have a GSA. I think the biggest thing for me is that we have found something that actually saves kids' lives that is really helpful to the lives of youth. I think the legislation part was necessary because we are not seeing universal realization of the need for the support of all marginalized youth. I just want to once again say, in no way do we ever think that this should infringe on anyone else's rights. It doesn't have to, and in practice it doesn't. What we see is people working closer together as youth growing up in that school environment. Every educator I know, every parent I know wants their kids to be safe and healthy and grow up to be great citizens. I think this legislation does that, and I think we should be proud Albertans for supporting it. Thank you very much.
John will now have a brief opportunity to rebut, if he chooses to.
I choose to. Is that? That's fine. That can. Thank you very much, Pam. You opened your comments with something about, like, and I don't remember the exact words, but it's something about this debate is good for democracy. And I agree. I think we're actually having more debate this Sunday afternoon on Bill 10 than what they had in the legislature on March the 10th. Because on March the 10th, the final version of this bill, and there had been debate about prior motions, prior bills, there had been debate about those, but this particular version of what was actually passed by the legislature, there was no public debate on that. There was no public consultation. It was rammed through in a matter of hours without any consultation and without things going to committee. So it's good we're having, the legislature didn't have it, but at least we're having a debate here today about the merits of Bill 10. Ms. Krause talked about parents are important, parents are the key, parents are not being left out, and she wishes parents were more involved. Now, Bill 10 expressly says that if a student at a school wants a GSA, the principal shall establish that. The parents do not need to be consulted. If the principal does consult the parents, and the parents say that they're totally against that, they want to address bullying in a different way, they want to address sexual identity issues in a different way, well, that's just too bad. That school's going to have a GSA, even if 100% of the parents are against it. And that's the problem with Bill 10. GSAs have already been around in Alberta, and Ms. Krause said, well, we have to balance the rights of parents who are for GSAs with the rights of parents who are against GSAs. Well, that's what we were doing prior to Bill 10. Prior to Bill 10, the parents who were in favor of GSAs, they could talk to their school principals and they could have the GSAs. So we did have a balance prior to Bill 10, but now it's gone. There's no balance. And Ms. Krause asked the question, why on earth would anybody be against GSAs? What's the problem with this bill? Why don't we just impose this on every school? Well, the reason is that GSAs are ideological clubs. If you spend more than a few minutes on a GSA website and see what they say about themselves, you will see very quickly that part of their mission is to wipe out homophobia and heterosexism. And homophobia includes any disagreement with gay sex or gay marriage. And we see this in 2006, the annual Fight Against Homophobia Award was given to the Canadian members of Parliament who voted in favor of same-sex marriage. So it's not hard to find hundreds, if not thousands of references on the internet where homophobia is designed. Homophobia means any opposition to gay marriage or gay sex. A GSA is designed to eradicate homophobia. Therefore, it's completely incompatible with Jewish schools, Muslim schools, Catholic schools, evangelical Christian schools, and even maybe a school like Weber Academy, which is not theistic, but doesn't agree with the ideology. They're not caring and sharing support groups, they're ideological clubs, therefore they shouldn't be imposed on every school in Alberta.
Well, I think that framed the debate perfectly. This has absolutely nothing, this has nothing to do with sex. This has absolutely nothing to do with sex. This has something to do with a person whose sexual orientation, their characteristic is being LGBT or T. It has nothing to do with what they do. And I take complete offense to saying that this is an activist club. This is a group of 5 kids in the lunchroom creating a safe place. And that, you know what, every week, sometimes that's as far as it goes. So I think it is ridiculous to put an agenda of hatred against homosexuality up here in a debate about something that seems perfectly reasonable about supporting a group of marginalized youth. So I just have to put that out there. I think, to say that like opposing gay marriage has been around for a decade, nothing has ended, nothing has changed. It is beyond me, and I recognize the importance of the debate around this, but I cannot frame it around hatred. So that's my spot.
Thank you both. Before we open up the floor to questions and comments, I'd like to, and before the crowd starts dissipating, I'd like to recognize both of our speakers. They have their courage of their conviction. They take of their time from their families, and here they are. So we're going to give each of them a certificate of appreciation, as we normally do. And basically it reads, in this instance, to John Carpe, for dedicating time and effort by speaking at Speaker's Corner. Thanks to you and your contribution of ideas and energy, we are better able to inform, enlighten, and entertain a more vibrant Calgary. Same message to both speakers. Here you are. Thank you very much. Now, just a couple of announcements before we invite interventions. We have about 27 sessions scheduled for the season, one every Sunday, and we're always struggling to find speakers and topics and speakers. It's a continual challenge. Our agenda isn't filled yet, so if anyone out there has any ideas, wishes to speak, please come and approach us, because we're literally begging for input and contribution. So that she's not begging, I am. So that's the first point. Secondly, if you wish to be informed about upcoming debates and events, we have a wonderful way of letting you, of getting everyone apprised. And we're on the, who here is familiar with Meetup? Anyone? So the bottom line is that there is this incredible service which operates in over 147 cities around the planet. It services around 600,000 clubs and organizations, from bird watchers to political debaters to ornithologists to whatever. And so basically what happens, if you want to get, they notify people of debates, and if you want to be notified, just check us out on Meetup. And if that's a bit of a challenge, if you give us your email address, we'll contact you so you can always be notified. We're going to have a very interesting debate next week, by the way, and it's going to be on ISIS. And the resolution for debate will be it resolved that ISIS or ISIL faithfully reflects the teachings of the Quran and the Muslim faith. You can expect that to be a very animated debate, and so that's just an announcement for next week. Having said that, if anyone has any questions or comments, please come up over here. Again, you're going to have unfettered freedom of expression. Depending on time constraints, I may cut people off if they drone on and be very repetitive. And please be respectful. Come on up.
I'm not a supporter of American-created Daesh, Turkey-created Daesh, but I prefer the word Daesh to refer to this group in the Middle East, because ISIS is the colonialistic name that we give to them. Okay, I just wanted to finish. So basically, we want to speak about ideology. The guy that was against the Bill 10 talked about ideology. Well, what we're talking about with so-called religious rights is an ideology that says nature is wrong. So I don't know who's actually looked into the different species out there, but I think it's somewhere up to 100, over 100 that are bisexual or actually gay. It is quite natural. And so it is an ideology of a lot of religio-fascist people to declare that people are unnatural. And they go as far to say that if you are gay, you're going to rot in hell. And they say this to their children. And brothers and sisters, there's a phrase for this. It's child abuse. We should not be abusing our children in this way. We should not be encouraging families and parents to actually perpetrate violence against their children. These children that are in these situations should actually be taken away from their violent parents. You know, so that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. Next intervener. Merle Tarleski.
Never surprised by the Marxist trend, but what can you do? You know, I tried to time myself to when Ms. Krause was going to bring out the hate card. It came right at the end. It usually does. It doesn't take long for the gay and lesbian lobby to use the hate card. No, she said hate. You said the word hate. Yes, you did. And that's really what homophobia means. If you oppose any type of expression of homosexuality, if you oppose Gay Pride Day, I'm called that in my union all the time because I don't want my union to be at the Gay Pride Day. It's hateful. Any criticism of the lifestyle is considered hate, and you need to be honest about that. It's also a little bit hypocritical for Ms. Krause to start in her opening comments by saying she protects the most vulnerable. Really? Because Ms. Krause is also an advocate of sexual and reproductive freedom, which also means abortion. So if you're vulnerable in the womb, it's okay to kill. But 3 minutes after you come out of that birth canal, then you have some rights. So she needs to be a little more honest on that issue. I've seen kids across North America that have to struggle and fight to get a prayer club in their school. But if you want a club and based on your sexual identity, because that is what it is, it's your sexual identity. When I introduce myself to people, I don't go, "Hi, my name's Merle, I sleep with women, how are you?" Doesn't define who I am. I'm Merle, I'm a human being. But yet this small particular group of society has to define themselves about who they sleep with and who they love. Who am I to tell people who they love? Well, if we go by that simple definition of who am I to tell you who you can love, then if you can love a 12-year-old girl sexually, that's your business. Well, it's true. If you're going to define it simply by the basis of who am I to tell you who to love, then I have no right to tell you who you can love and who you can't love. And let's be honest that GSAs are not going to be driven by ideologues. Someone is going to get into that club and guide that group. A group of 12-year-olds aren't going to sit there for long and go, "Oh, were you bullied today? So was I. What are we going to do about it?" Someone with some type of an agenda, and now any club that exists is going to propel it. So to say the GSAs are not ever going to be ideologically driven, if that was the case, then she would be in favor of abolishing Bill 10, because the Bill 10 is an ideologically driven bill. It is saying that because we can't change your conscience, we're going to use the brute force of the state, which is surprising that a Marxist would support that. We're going to use the brute force of the state to make you be in favor of gay rights. And she continually says how she wants the parents to be part of that discussion. Well, what if the parent doesn't want their kids to learn how to get syphilis? And that came from the CDC. Hold on. That came from the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, when she was speaking at an AIDS rally recently. She admitted it. It's out there. That didn't come from a Christian group. It came from the Center of Disease Control at an AIDS awareness conference. And she said, "You need to know, as hard as it is for me to admit it, that there's a rising increase in syphilis amongst homosexual men." So if she is really in favor of keeping her kids healthy and strong, I sure hope that at the end of the GSA conference she will say, "You stand a 90% chance of contracting syphilis if you participate in this lifestyle."
Two more
Let's be
minutes.
honest with our kids. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next intervener, please.
Hi, that was interesting. Very. All right, first of all, we live in a country that respects and allows gay marriage. And I think our schools are government run, so one should expect this in the least. Secondly, John, your talk seemed premised on clubs defining school culture. That premise is fraught. It assumes a homogeneity in our schools, and in our schools and among the parents and the families attending those schools. And that's not the case. I'm an educator. I study schools, and schools are not homogeneous in character. And so we have a diverse culture, and I'm talking democracy here. We have a diverse culture that respects all the various forms of being in Canada. And some of those forms of being, if they're feeling oppressed, if those individuals and there are children in the school who feel oppressed, it is their right to go forward, and if they find a sponsoring teacher, and if it satisfies that, let me get the wording right, that it promotes a welcoming, respectful, caring environment. So it's not just any club. It's a club that forwards a welcoming, caring, respectful environment. I hope that I live in a country that allows that club to go forward.
Thank you very much. Next intervener, please.
Actually, before we have the next intervener, our speakers would like to respond to the first few comments.
Not every school is alike. For Jewish parents, Muslim parents, Catholic parents, evangelical Christian parents in Alberta, what they want is to have a unity where what is taught at home and what is taught at the synagogue or mosque or church or temple and what is taught at school, that those things complement each other and that they're not in conflict. And the diversity, every time I hear the word, it's usually used as a club to kind of ideologically beat up people for not agreeing with what you want agreement with. But there's a lot of people talk about diversity, but they wouldn't want a prayer club or a pro-life club at the school attended by their children. You can never resolve any of these conflicts by a one-size-fits-all. And this is the problem with Bill 10. It's a one-size-fits-all. Different people have different beliefs about the best ways to address suicide. Suicide rates today in Canada are a lot higher than what they were before the advent of the sexual revolution. So back in the day when most people thought that sex was holy, and excuse me, I've got the mic right now. Back in the day when most people thought that sex was something that was sacred and holy and not just something you do just for fun with somebody you met a few hours ago, suicide rates were lower. There's different opinions about the best ways to reduce suicide. What Bill 10 does is it says, well, a GSA is the best way to reduce suicides, therefore the government's going to impose it on every school in Alberta. And that's what's wrong with it. It's a mandatory imposition of one view, the view of Pam Krause and the view of other people. It's the imposition of one opinion on every school in Alberta, and that violates parental rights, it violates choice, and it violates real diversity.
Thank you very much. Next intervener, young lady over there, please.
I just want to say that I appreciate that this debate is happening today. As a future educator and the faculty of education at the University of Alberta, this is a very important issue to me. However, I'm not speaking I have a question, but I'm not speaking as a future educator, but as a recent student, right? I'm still quite young. I graduated high school very recently, and throughout my time in school, I was picked on almost constantly for my belief system. I'm an evangelical Christian, and so my entire life I've had people target me because of that. And I think we all agree that nobody here likes bullying. No one thinks that anyone should be bullied, right? Regardless of sexual orientation. However, if we're going to create a safe space for all students, then we need to address all forms of bullying. And even if, you're more than welcome to think I'm backwards, my beliefs are wrong or misguided. However, I hope none of you think that people like me should be bullied just because we believe something different. And so, my question to Ms. Krause is, you say that the point of establishing the GSAs is to help protect marginalized children and youths in particular in relation to sexual orientation. How would you suggest we protect youths who are bullied for other reasons, including religion?
Well, I think that policy should be inclusive of all, and I think that there should be ways of dealing with that. And the recent Ontario
act, the new school act that they came out with, it is completely included, and I believe that schools should be supportive of creating safe places when there's any form of discrimination. So, I mean, I don't have a specific way, but I think I think it's a tragedy that happened to you, and I don't think it's right in any way.
Lady over here.
Thank you. I have a few questions, and a few of them been raised. First of all, I want to ask Ms. Krause, who make this the most vulnerable position that you said? These are the most vulnerable people. Who determines that? And secondly, I want to find out also who funds some of these studies. We hear a lot of numbers going around, and when we have numbers, I like to think analytically, who is behind it, who's behind the funding, who supports this. We're also told that, again and again, I hear it on the radio and other places, that Bill 10 is just another club. Well, if it's just another club, why make it mandatory? Why put it under pressures of those who don't want it? Why force others to do it if it's just another club? Make it open and free. If you want to be a part of it, fine. Let's not force one set of ideology down others' throat. Someone once said, the road to hell is paved with many good intentions. And I can name a few. What is popular in a changing world, a changing condition, is not always possible a few years later on. Let us, for example, look at the sterilization bill that was forced on many schools back, I think it was in the 50s or 60s. That sterilization bill, it was very popular amongst the elites, just as Bill 10 is today. But today, we are paying for it. Let's look at another way that was paved in good intention. There was once a bill that says, let's educate the blacks and let's educate the First Nations kids. We know what that turned out to because it was popular then. Let's put them in residential school. Let's put them in campground. Well, today, we're paying the price for all these mandatory bills. Who is going to pay the bill later on if this fails?
Thank you. Question answered. Madam, did you want your question answered by Pam? Do you have an answer? Is not necessary, but if you wish. If you don't wish to, you don't need to. Okay. Next intervener, gentleman over there, the sweater.
Hello everyone, my name is Tim Stevens. I'm the pastor at Fairview Baptist Church just south of here. And there's two things I wanted to say. The first thing I wanted to say, you know, this gentleman was an example. There's other things that have been said here already. And it's tough in my mind to understand how a GSA is going to help prevent bullying when I see within the homosexual community individuals that would essentially be bullies to anyone who disagreed with them. And it's not even myself, who's an evangelical Christian, since I believe in heaven and hell. Gentlemen, you said my kids should be taken away from me. How is that not a sense of bullying? That's what you said, sir. I listened to you. And I'm not teaching them violence. I'm teaching them the scriptures, the Bible that I believe is true and sent to us from God. Okay, and so that's against evangelical Christians, but we even saw it in the news recently when Dolce and Gabbana also said that IVF, in vitro fertilization, was not right. They were vilified and hated on by the homosexual community themselves, even though they are part of that community. So I don't know how a GSA, a community that looks down on so many other groups who do not agree with them and support the homosexual agenda, can help prevent bullying at all. I think the only answer is going to be, as John mentioned, the fact that we are all created in the image of God. That we have dignity and worth not because of our sexuality, but because we are created in the image of God, and sir, you know that you're created in God's image. And it says so in the scriptures. That's what God has said to us, sir. I'm not trying to be pompous here. The second thing I wanted to mention as well, we don't want to marginalize anyone. We want to see human flourishing, and it's not just if you're a theist or you believe in Christianity or Islam that you would say that marriage between a man and a woman is the best way to promote human flourishing. You mentioned that evolution, or there's creatures in society that are asexual or bisexual, which is true. But in terms of humanity, nature itself would teach you that you need a man and a woman for human flourishing. And so I want to see the human race flourish. I want to see our schools flourish. And I agree that we need to give parents the choice, whether you're Christian, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Jewish, whether you're an atheist, to be able to pass on your values to your children if you want a free and democratic society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gentleman over there, please. Jeff Fullerton. I get to learn a few names over time.
Over the years, yes. Especially when you read their books. Anyhow, my comments will dovetail with that last gentleman somewhat. I'm an independent candidate on the ballot up in Airdrie. At the all candidates debate, I question the wisdom of gay-straight alliances. And I have been since vilified on the Facebook page of Airdrie Pride. And a lady has been commenting there about how her son, her straight son, is being pressured to attend the GSA in the area. No, I'm not lying at all. But anyhow, so he's been pushed around, bullied, intimidated, and pressured to attend the GSA. So the whole purpose behind GSA is to reduce bullying. They quote some numbers that suggest it is, but I don't think it's being reduced. I think it's just being redirected to those who don't want to attend them. She talked about people living, about promoting safety and saving lives, et cetera, et cetera. Well, AIDS is concentrated in the homosexual and the intravenous drug community in developed countries. That is a simple fact. And I believe the GSAs, like gay marriage back 10 years ago, GSAs are another step along the way to the complete normalization of the homosexual lifestyle. The more normal, the more mainstream it becomes, the more our youth will feel at liberty to experiment with and thus become addicted to it, therefore exposing themselves to all kinds of potential diseases. Okay? So will GSAs lead to lives being saved or lives being lost? That is a debatable question, ladies and gentlemen. This is not one-sided. A lot of lies have been presented today by one of our guest speakers.
Thank you very much. Gentleman over there, please.
No.
First of all, I think it's a very positive thing that all of you are here today, including all of the speakers here. I think it's a good sign for democracy, and considering we've had a lot of threats to democracy and opposing laws to take away the rights of certain groups, people groups, that I think this is a positive sign. So thank you all for taking the time to be here. I actually had a friend request from an individual the other day. He asked me to sign up. He has a Facebook page called She Is My Brother. So I signed up, and I've had an opportunity to speak to a number of people there. This is a page dedicated to people who were in the gay lifestyle and have decided to depart from the gay lifestyle, and they face a lot of persecution from the so-called gay community, or LG, whatever the acronym is now. I've had conversations where there's now other letters being added to the acronym, so I'm not sure what today's status is on the acronym. But anyways, what I've noted is that there is a strong backlash against individuals who have decided that they want to depart from the lifestyle of homosexuality, transgender, whatever it may be. I actually have individuals on Facebook I communicate with regularly who are, they've defined themselves in that way, and yet we have strong but poignant conversations. We each state our opinion, we state it strongly, and I think that that's part of the discourse of a democratic society, and that's what we're seeing here today. But the difficulty with Bill 10 is when you use language, first of all, I don't think it's a necessary bill for one, because Our society already has a Charter of Bill of, a Canadian Bill of Rights, our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Alberta Bill of Rights. We have protections in society that are meant to keep people safe. Whether you are a religious person or not a religious person, it really is beside the point. If we believe in a society of diversity, if we believe in a society of respect, then we have to allow for different viewpoints, and we have to allow for schools that as a culture, as a group of people, they've decided that they want to live in accordance with their faith and values. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms says, whereas we recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law as the preamble, it's not taken out, and it was foundational. That's your opinion. The point of the matter is that our country was founded on principles that has made our society strong today. That's why we enjoy the freedoms that we have. Many societies don't have those foundations, and they don't have the freedoms that we enjoy. The freedom that you actually are expressing right now. So I guess the thing is that when you use language that says must, and then you say a specific type of group, a specific type of sexual orthodoxy or even religious orthodoxy must be instated in every school across the province, you're now trumping what the Bill of Rights and what the Canadian Rights and Charter of Rights and Freedoms has designated and said that there are guaranteed fundamental freedoms in our society that your group may not be like, and that group may not like that group's rights and freedoms, but we all have to respect that we all have those individual rights and freedoms, and we have to not trump each other's. Like, I can't, let's say for example, someday somebody wanted to start a homosexual school. Well, I can't say, well, that school now has to have an indoctrination class for Christianity or Islam or whatever it may be, and nor should it be that homosexuality is then imposed and other kinds of sexual orientations and so on are imposed on people that believe in the biblical worldview or other worldviews. So that's my 2 cents.
So we have in our midst today, in the person of Kent Hare, not only a recovering lawyer, not only an MLA currently sitting, but also someone who had quite a bit to do with either the implementation of this bill or its predecessor. And so I think we should hear from him.
Well, thank you very much for coming to Speaker's Corner and embracing democracy, and thank you to Pam and John and Gabor for all coming out and expressing their views. There's been a couple of things said here that, in my view, are incorrect, and I can go through actually how this actually affects the education system, how it fits in with the Education Act, and why gay-straight alliances are necessary. First off, gay-straight alliances are proven to save lives. There's 2 reports out there, one by the University of Victoria as well as EGAL Canada, which shows unequivocally that LGBTQ students, or those who are perceived to be LGBTQ, are bullied at far higher rates than other students. Those are facts. And that when they are bullied at school, that they increase suicides. When you do have a GSA in the school, they are finding it not only reduces bullying of those students, but actually the entire school runs more smoothly. But let's get into the legal ramifications of this. If you look at all schools in Alberta, whether they be public school, whether it be private school or Catholic school, they fit under the Alberta Education Act. They all receive money from your government. Accordingly, they are governed by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, where in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms you shall not be discriminated on the basis of race, religion, marital status, or sexual orientation. And that is the way it is. And if you're going to have if you're going to take public money, you have to provide access to allow students to participate in your society. So if you're going to allow clubs at schools, Well, why wouldn't you allow a gay-straight alliance? If you don't allow a gay-straight alliance, you're actually just saying, we're discriminating against you on the basis of your sexual orientation. That's the way it is. And I think the government understood this when they brought in the law. And like I said, I think it was a good law, it's a good public policy, as it addresses a need to protect our LGBTQ youth. And it is not mandatory. Okay? Let's remember that. It is not mandatory. It says, a GSA will be made available in a school should children in that school want one. No one is forcing your children to go to a gay-straight alliance. Nobody. Okay? All they have to do is they're having an after-school class where if kids want to get together and support each other through a difficult time, that's it. No one is making your child go there. And when I talk to parents, whether they be in a Catholic school, private school, or otherwise, they want their kids to have access to this. Why would you want to force your will on their right to have an after-school club? You know? So why would it? All it is an after-school club. If kids want to go, they're allowed to be supportive. Look, I hate to bring this up, but this is over. This is law. You're whistling at the wind going by. The society is not going back. I appreciate you being there, but it's over, and the government of Alberta, I think, made a wise decision in this, so we should all move on with our lives and be glad that LGBTQ kids are being supported. Thank you.
Well, perhaps to no one's surprise, Mr. Carpe wishes to respond.
Kent and I are both graduates of the University of Calgary Law School. There's different opinions about the causes of suicide, the solutions to it, how do we reduce suicide rates. There's all kinds of different opinions about that. What this legislation does, in the name of saving lives, which is an opinion, is that it completely excludes the desires and the concerns and the interests of parents in having a say as to the kind of school that they want to send their kids to. Kent Harris says, well, if you get public money, then you must have a GSA in your school. That's forgetting the fact that Muslims. That's forgetting the fact that Muslim. Do you mind if I continue? Or good, thank you. People with different opinions all pay taxes. Okay, so the Catholic or evangelical or Orthodox Jewish approach to sexuality is different from that of an atheist or agnostic or a pagan or anything else. And everybody pays taxes, and to say that we need a one-size-fits-all school system that has to be imposed on all parents, regardless of what parents wants, that's a profoundly disrespectful law, and it's a violation of parental rights.
Thank you very much. There appear to be no more interveners, so I think we're going to bring the show to an end, the program. Does anyone have anything else to say? If not, thank you very much for attending. Thank you for your time. Check in next week. Again, if you have any ideas, did you want to speak? Well, we have one more. Just before I turn over the mic. So if you have any ideas for topics, come on forward. We'd love to hear from you. And do turn up next week. Sir.
Hello, my name is Steven. I'm 22 years old. I was born and raised in British Columbia. And when I went to high school, I knew that I was a gay man. That's just how I am. My parents, who are Christians, basically stopped talking to me. And I had no support from anybody. It was a really tough time in my life. But my school had a GSA, and there was just a few kids I could talk to. You know, it's hard when your family doesn't support you and you don't know anybody else like you. It just provided me a space to go where there are some people who can understand what I'm going through and who can make me feel like it's okay to be me. I think the bottom line is all kids in public schools should feel respected, no matter what their views or what group they're in, including all religions. And it's pretty much as simple as that. If you feel threatened by a gay straight alliance meeting in your school and the kids there feeling supported, you should put your kids into a private school where that won't exist. We have a right, gays have a right to marry in Canada, so in our public school they should have a right to be supported. Thank you.
Thank you.
He just said the issue between